Ready to roll?
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Dallas.
Here.
Gerhardstein.
Here.
Jaworski.
Here.
Kosky. Here. Levon. Is excused. Saloto. Here. Thielman.
Here.
All right. In the absence of Council President Levon, we are going to do an election of Council President Pro Tem. So we would like a motion to elect a Council President Pro Tem, please.
I would like to nominate Matt Jaworski as Council President Pro Tem.
Second.
All right. Motion by Kosky, seconded by Bala, that Councilperson Jaworski be elected to be Council President Pro Tem for the December 12th meeting. Is there any discussion? All right. Bala.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kosky.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes. Thielman.
Yes. Thank you. Turn it over to Mr. Mayor.
We're going to swear in. We're going to do Mr. Kulik first.
These are my Bible holders.
Okay, you want please. Turn towards Dad,
Hold that up, please.
Raise your right hand. All right, repeat after me. I, James E. Kulik,
I, James E. Kulik,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the laws of the Charter of the City of Wickliffe,
and the laws of the Charter of the City of Wickliffe,
and that I will, in all respects,
and that I will, in all respects,
faithfully discharge my duties
faithfully discharge my duties
as a lieutenant of the City of Wickliffe Police Department
as a lieutenant of the City of Wickliffe Police Department
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Sergeant here. Gotta look alike, too. Okay, repeat after me. I, Robert L. Kuzy,
I, Robert L. Kuzy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the laws of the Charter of the City of Wickliffe,
and the laws of the Charter of the City of Wickliffe,
and that I will, in all respects,
and I will in all respects
faithfully discharge my duties
faithfully discharge my duties
as a sergeant of the City of Wickliffe Police Department
as a sergeant of the City of Wickliffe Police Department
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations. All right, thank you.
Just a minute.
didn't have a very far walk, did you?
All right, we'll continue on with the meeting then, and we'll move on to the approval of the council minutes from November 28th, 2022.
I make a motion, we accept the council minutes from November 28th, 2022.
We actually need a motion for Councilwoman Saloto to abstain from the vote that night, or from the vote for that meeting.
Make a motion that Councilwoman Swallow can abstain from voting on the minutes of 11/28/2022.
Second?
Motion made by Councilman Thielman, seconded by Councilman Hartstein to allow Councilwoman Saloto to abstain from voting on the minutes of the Wickliffe City Council meeting from November 28th, 2022. Sandy, please call the roll.
Bell.
Yes.
Hartstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Saloto. Yes. Thielman.
Yes.
Now I'll make a motion that we accept the council meeting minutes from November 28th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Hartstein, seconded by Councilman Ballard, that the minutes of the Wickliffe City Council meeting of November 28th, 2022 be approved as presented. Discussion? Sandy, call the roll.
Ballard.
Yes.
Hartstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Saloto. Abstain. Thielman.
Yes.
All right, the minutes are approved. With that, we'll go to reports and communications from the Mayor's Safety Director.
Thank you, Councilman Jaworski. So, first I just want to say how thankful we are that the Wharton Road underpass is open again for the season. Construction on the South Bridge will begin in the late spring, around May, and by next year at this time we will have a couple brand new bridges. Lakeland Boulevard construction also wrapped up, looks very nice, and striping will be complete once weather allows us in the spring. The focus for 2023 will be economic development. I'm putting together a plan to increase our effectiveness in this area. This should assist us as we work to implement some of the suggestions from MS Consultants for the Euclid Avenue corridor and continue to welcome new businesses into our city. The website team set up initial meetings with the vendors, and they're looking to have this in place if it all goes as planned by summer of 23. This will also be a key piece of marketing for our city and another mechanism for economic development. Working with Ms. Stoles to finalize the budget for next year. Council will receive the 2023 budget by the end of the year. I know Council President Levon will be calling a Finance Committee meeting in January to work to pass the budget, which must be in place by the end of March. And as we wrap up the end of the first year of my term, I am thankful for all of you who have helped us to make so many things happen in our city. We have had an excellent first year and we're able to accomplish so many things. Next year will bring many new opportunities, and I will look forward to another year of challenges and success. And lastly, happy birthday to Councilman Hartstein. I think he was born when Harry Colby was the mayor. So. Just playing. That's all I have.
Anyone have any questions or comments for the mayor? All right, reports, communications from the law director.
Thank you, Councilperson Jaworski. I do not have any report for council this evening.
Okay. Any questions for the law director? Okay. I have no communications, amendments, or additions to the agenda. Anybody? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to the administrators. Police Chief Ice.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to my monthly report, I'd like the City Council to be aware of, yesterday about 7 o'clock, 7:15, we got a complaint of gunshots on Eldon and Rogers in that area. We went down and checked it and didn't find anything. And about 4 hours later, a resident on Drennick called and said that he found a bullet hole in his house. So we went back from where that was at and traced back. we found 3 different locations where bullets had hit a garage, a tree, and that gentleman's house on Drennick. We do have some leads our detectives are working on, and we'll see how that pans out. I want to talk a little bit about the hiring process. I think I mentioned that I offered a job to two guys, and they've accepted. I have 2 more interviews tomorrow. One of those candidates has the police academy, one does not. We're getting to the point where 2 other candidates that we looked at, one, he got hired, he got a conditional offer in Rocky River, and then we interviewed him first, and we were hoping that we could persuade him to take our job. And I had Detective Kula call Rocky River, asked if they had hired him. They said that they did, but then he rescinded his offer. He took a job at Highland Heights. Another kid that I interviewed got a conditional offer from South Euclid. He interviewed very well, but at the end of the interview, he said he was gonna stay with South Euclid. South Euclid is offering him a $10,000 signing bonus. We're out of candidates, other than these 2 right here. 2 other ones had some significant problems that I'm not gonna hire them. So these are the last 2 candidates. I know that there's been some concern about sending someone to the police academy. However, usually when they make it down to my office, they've been vetted pretty well by our detectives, been through the CVSA, psychological, background checks, so they can recommend it to be hired. I did the final interview tomorrow, and I'm probably gonna offer them a job. I think we're at the point where we don't have any choice but to hire somebody without the police academy. So that'll be up to Mayor Sakis. I'll have some discussion with him after I speak to these candidates tomorrow. But I'd like council to keep in mind, I understand that it's an expense, but not hiring a candidate and going short, you're gonna incur that money easily in overtime. And we're still going short, so. Okay, in addition to that, our Shop with the Cop is the 14th, and we have a block watch meeting on the 15th. That's all I would have this evening.
So if we have to put a candidate through the police academy, is there some sort of mandatory, you have to stay with us for so long, or you have to repay it?
Well, you can't ask them to repay their salary. You could ask them.
But you have to pay for the police academy, that's what I'm saying.
The police academy we're looking at is OSP, and it starts, I think, in January, or maybe early February. That police academy is free.
Oh.
Chief, I know you and I have had a conversation about that you don't personally care for lateral transfers.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lateral transfer, the guy comes in at his current pay from the city he comes from. Is that how that works, right?
No.
Oh, that isn't out?
No.
Okay. Is it time that we start to think about opening this up to lateral transfers?
Well, it's certainly a possibility to do that. The concern I would have, the departments that I know that have done lateral transfers, they've not had good luck with it. They've ended up having, oftentimes you'll get candidates that are having a problem at the department that they're working at, and they want to get out. And I don't want to hire somebody else's problems. I know a lot of places that have, they've had some good luck too, but they've also had, I've heard more negative comments about that than positive comments. But at the end of the day, you have to have employees. So is that something I would consider? Certainly. But I also think, just generally in the economy, I follow CNBC and some other financial news feeds, and they're saying that just in general, the employment opportunities across the country are increasing. There's more and more people are going back to work. So now I'm hoping that as time goes on, instead of having 11 candidates, 80 to look at like we have in the past. And I'm not sure, that's a guess on my part.
Follow-up question on that is, I talked to a gentleman that used to work in Cleveland, and he said when he went through the Cleveland Academy, he's currently at South Euclid. He said when Cleveland sends you through the academy, they don't pay you, they have a reduced rate while you're in the academy. Instead of paying them, forgive me, I don't know what our starting officers make while he will be in the academy. If you hire him and send him, he's at his normal rate getting hired. Is that correct? So I think Cleveland hires them at a probationary rate while they're in the academy, so they don't incur all that cost. Is that something that we could look into if they're in the academy?
We could, but the negative part about that is I just explained to you how difficult it is to find people. And like this, the one kid that I liked, that he got a $10,000 bonus. When I interviewed him, he had mentioned to me, he says, well, I want to see what you're going to offer me. So he's looking for more money.
I believe that the guys from South Euclid that I know said that came from some kind of state money. I don't know for a fact that there was some state money and that's what they gave him. It wasn't out of the city budget, but some kind of grant from the state to hire police officers.
That could be, I don't know.
Okay.
Chief, don't some of these have to go like through the union and stuff? Like some of these decisions, like if there's a lateral move, wouldn't the union have to okay some of the stuff, or even like to pay at a reduced rate or something?
I don't think you'd have to negotiate that, because when you hire a new candidate, they're not in the union yet. They're not in the union until they're on probation. What was the first part of your question? So I had another.
Well, just, some of the stuff we're talking about, wouldn't, the unions have to be notified that they're doing this, or?
Not the
would it
use.
be-
So the problem, you can't just say, hey, we're doing lateral entries. You can't do that. You have to go to the Civil Service Commission, and they have to create a provision in the civil service rules to allow that. Now, some cities, like Eastlake, for example, they have the traditional method of hiring that we use, and they also have a lateral transfer separate process. And they can take both at the same time, traditional and lateral transfers. And they can hire somebody off either one of those lists. They've had poor luck with that. Cleveland cops that take suburban jobs, 70% of them go back to Cleveland. A guy that I know that got hired in Willoughby Hills, he was a Cleveland cop for like 7 years. He worked there for 3 months and went back. Eastlake just had a guy that they did a lateral transfer from Cleveland. He went back. A guy from Woolwick went back to Cleveland. They're going back to Cleveland. So there's a number of problems with lateral transfers.
That's a good question. Thanks. Okay, so I understand. First of all, I would wonder why that would happen. Why would they go back to Cleveland? Is it more money?
No, they make $20,000 less than we do.
Okay.
Work harder in the suburbs.
So they work harder in the suburbs than they do in Cleveland? Or what would be the
They
attraction
work.
to go back to
I'm sorry, you said they work?
What would be the attraction to go back to Cleveland then, if it's not for more money?
I don't know. We've never had anybody where I've interviewed for that.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, the lateral transfer thing, I think could be an opportunity, only because don't we have people that may be from Wickliffe or have some Wickliffe tie that maybe had to work in another suburb or somewhere else that would like to come back to Wickliffe? I'm sure there are a million different reasons why somebody would want to come to Wickliffe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just that blanket, I don't know, I don't think, people have had a hard time with it, so I'm not even gonna try it. So I'd rather send somebody to the academy than think about, looking at some other options too. The academy is great, and I think it's great. We should give, officers new opportunities. That's fabulous. But I just think, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, certainly, and just making suggestions, but maybe if there could, as you said, be other pools that you could be drawing from, like a lateral pool, or, just like open up those other avenues too that may help in the future. I know now you're pretty
That's something
set.
that could be done if
Yeah.
the lateral entries, but you have to be a civil service rules by Jim Kane and his group, and they have their own lawyer.
But maybe that's something that we would consider, setting up.
If I did, I'd want to do it both. I'd want to do it both ways. I don't want to
Right,
have,
that's what I mean.
Eastlake's process I like, although
I
they've
think it
had,
sounds great. It sounds like there's other avenues to draw from. I know in my life, when I'm hiring, I like to have different pools to go to for candidates, because it's not, especially in today's world, it's tough to go just one route and, you know, one pool of candidates, so. I don't know. And
So I wanted him to bring this up tonight because it was addressed to me that if he interviews this candidate and he has the opportunity to hire him and put him through the academy, that it's a decision put on me. You guys write the checks, you guys pay the bills. I want that, I wanted it brought in front of you guys, because the alternative here is we burn through overtime or we run short. So this is a decision, you know, I know these are the decisions I gotta make, but we're a team, and I mean it when I said that, so I wanna know how you guys feel, if you're good with this. He does have a reputation of running a good department. We have good police officers on the street, and I know sometimes the last time was maybe different, we didn't have as many to choose from, we don't right now. So that's why this is being discussed. Want to know your thoughts on this, because it's a big decision. This is tax-paying money that we gotta be responsible for.
So my thought is that this looks like it's the only route right now, and we need to hire someone, and you've done, you know, your due diligence, and you've talked to whoever, and you really feel this is the right way to go, and I totally trust you on that. But at the same time, I would really like to see some other avenues put in place for future hiring, so that you can go some other places too, besides academy candidates.
I agree with you, and I don't think we've had this discussion before. So to do it tonight and say, we need to have an answer tonight, when we knew the last time we did this, and we did a NOPATA, and it was $38,000 to the residents for that gentleman, we knew this was a problem then. So we didn't look at avenues then, so we're talking about avenues tonight.
Right.
And it's hard to come to council now and say, we have to know tonight. When we knew that this was a problem going in for months now, that we could have talked about this and found out how council felt about lateral transfers or talking to Jim Kane, we had plenty of time to do this other than tonight and say that we have to make a decision tonight.
Well, I understand. Yeah, I brought that up when I first got elected. I don't want to come to that. I know how you felt. I was on council. I get it. There was many concerns of, okay, we pay for this guy to go through the academy. What if he fails the academy? And we already got him on payroll. So there's a lot of concerns, and I get that. We're coming down to crunch time, and if we don't do it, are we going to be sure, and are we going to burn through the overtime? These are some of the questions that...
If I don't hire this kid tomorrow, he's already been interviewed by Parma.
I understand that, but we've had plenty of time to discuss this. You and I had this discussion when you hired the last gentleman, put him through OPATA. So we've had this discussion about the feelings of sending somebody through OPATA and costing the residents $38,000. So we've had this discussion. So to do this now, when we had a year to talk about this, and then you do it tonight and say, I have to hire him tomorrow. You know our hand, we have to do this because we have to have an employee. I just think it's poor timing that we went through all this time and now we're gonna do it tonight and say, I have to do it tonight.
I had no way of knowing how many candidates were going to sign up for the test.
That doesn't mean that we don't look into the avenues that we have prior to putting out that this is all it is.
Last test we gave, I had 42 candidates. I had 11 to choose from here. One of them had drug problems, one of them had mental health problems. 2 of them took jobs. There's a couple problems with a couple other ones.
All I'm saying is, Chief, we all knew that there was an opportunity that this was gonna come back up after the discussions that we had for the last candidate. So we had a whole year that we could have discussed this and what avenues we could have looked at when we get to this point. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I understand what you're saying, but you know, I voiced my concern about lateral entries. I think that's I think you're playing with fire with that. I think you're I like to hire, and every police department has its own culture. I've explained this in the past. You guys don't know this, but the culture we have, people want to come here. Wickliffe is one of the best run police departments in the county. We get compliments all the time. We get compliments out at the Common Police Court about how we put our cases together. That doesn't happen by happenstance. It's a group, myself, Bush, Pat Hanksman, he was here, Joe Thompson, the sergeants. There's one way we do things.
I understand that, but that's what Councilman Salota was just saying,
okay,
that.
When you start getting in, if you start getting in somebody from, like let's say you get a guy from Cleveland or something that's got 8 or 10 years on the job. How do you break those habits? It's almost impossible. It's a whole different culture down. It's a whole different way of policing. How do you come out to a suburb and do that? That may be one of the reasons why 70% of them go back to Cleveland, even though they're taking a significant pay cut for many of these departments.
But we have 2 officers that work on our force that came out of Cleveland.
They came through the regular testing process.
Right. They went through the police academy in Cleveland, then come out here after they took the test. So, I mean, I understand that we have 2 officers that didn't go back to Cleveland. I think Councilwoman Salota's comment is that when you said yourself that people want to come to Wickliffe.
Who's the other one besides Nick?
Pecknick.
He didn't work in Cleveland.
Well, I'm pretty sure you told me you worked for Cleveland.
He did not work for Cleveland.
Okay, I'll stand corrected then.
We had a guy named Santiago that came in. He had the police academy, we hired him. Good kid. He was here for less than a year, and he went to work in Cleveland. Why? His dad was a detective in the 2nd District, and he wanted to work with his dad. Tried talking him out of it. He took a $20,000 pay cut. Off he went. 3 years later, he calls me up and says, hey, I want to come back. And I take the test. He's past the age limit now. I said, you can go back. I said, there's nothing I can do. You can talk to the Civil Service Commissioner. He'll run it past their lawyer to see if you can come back. Cannot. So.
I believe that our police department is run better than any other police department in the entire northeastern Ohio area. I think you do a phenomenal job, and I think the culture is wonderful, which is why I'm confused why people don't want to come. So what else is it? Is it money? Is it, like, what is keeping some kid from wanting to go to Parma instead of here, or wanting to go to Highland Heights instead of here? Like, what are we missing? And maybe we try to correct that.
I don't think we're missing anything. I mean, this kid that went to South Euclid, he made a hell of a mistake.
Like, who goes to South Euclid instead
Well,
of here?
the other problem you have is when you work in Cuyahoga County, it's a whole different ballgame there. For example, possession of heroin is a F5, felony 5. Possession of cocaine is a felony 5. So you cannot send a felony F5 drug possession downtown to Cleveland. They will not accept it. They kick it back. You have to break it down to attempted possession, make it a misdemeanor to keep it in the muni court. Juvenile court. Forget it. They have so many kids running through that system down there. Yeah, it's frustrating for detectives that we speak to in different cities. When they make juvenile arrests, nothing happens to them. We arrest somebody here for drug possession on F5. They plead guilty because they think they're going home. They get 60 days at the county, and they're shocked. That's the kind of support you have in Lake County.
So then why don't people want to come here versus other places?
I don't think it's people that want to come here. I mean, Highland Heights is a very good police department. South Euclid is not. The only thing I can think of is that kid, $10,000 was what turned his head,
Right,
because he made
so
the comment
maybe-
to me, what can you offer me? Like he thought I was gonna say, I'll give you 20 grand or whatever.
And we wouldn't consider offering any kind of sign-on bonus for anybody.
Well, that's something for you guys to chew on. Actually, I think it's got some merit.
I do too. I mean, I do too.
Everybody's going through this process. I think whatever Jim speaks here in a minute, he may tell you about some of the problems he's having. It's in police and fire service everywhere. Every big city across this country is hurting for policemen. You know, Minneapolis, for example, they're allowed to have 950 policemen. They have like 480. And you can't figure out what crime's running rampant in Minneapolis. Same thing in Baltimore, New York, Chicago, every big city. Cleveland's short 400 guys. I mean, I don't have an answer for that, other than trying to find the best quality people I can. And we've got some good candidates here. Just when we put through the police academy. And something else, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but years ago, you could not go to the police academy unless you were hired. When I went to the academy, I know it's back when we had leather football helmets, but when I went to the police academy, everybody was hired. Every single person in my class, 30 guys, every guy was hired someplace. You could not go to the police academy unless you were hired by a police department. I'm not sure exactly when they changed that. It was probably like 20 years ago. Some places then put in place the stipulation that you can't hire anyone unless they have a police academy. those rules are getting kicked out because everybody's hurting for people. And then I've said before, I am laser focused on hiring quality people. We lucked out this time. Well, last time we've been fortunate here in our hiring process. The best candidate last time, Bischoff, by far the best candidate. We had to put him through a police academy. In my view, doing this job for as long as I have, the $38,000 that you're speaking of is a drop in the bucket compared to the quality of the people you're gonna get. They're gonna be here for 25 or 30 years, as compared to maybe, like I know Euclid's had some problem hiring some of their lateral transfers, and they've had criminal charges brought against them. I want nothing like that to happen. That can be disruptive to the whole department. We have one way of doing things. You get somebody fresh out of the police academy or somebody who doesn't do police work again, they only know one way to do things. And that's why we are where we're at, as far as the quality of our policing here. We make more arrests. We make more criminal arrests in the Willoughby Muni court system than Willoughby. Willoughby's got twice as many police officers we have, twice as many, and we make more arrests. That doesn't happen by luck. That's because of the way we function.
No, I think you run a wonderful department. I'm thinking maybe, I see the merit of like basically home growing your, send in the police academy, then they become part of your fabric and they stay. But can we put any kind of an assurance on retention? Can we ask for a certain number of years, or can we do anything like that?
Well, the only thing we could do with that is put a stipulation on if we pay for the police academy, if they leave within, whatever,
They have to
3 years, if they gotta
repay
pay us back the
something.
program.
Yeah.
But this, we've not had anybody, except Santiago, leave.
Okay.
And the 37 years I've been here, one time. And that kid tried to come back.
And he left for his dad. Yeah. It's not
His dad retired, now he's there by himself.
Okay.
I'll be brief. How long is the police academy? How long does it take to get through?
Oh, what is it now? 16 weeks, I think. 16 or 17 weeks. Then they have to go through the FTO program, and that's 13 weeks.
I understand things change. We can't keep doing things the same way over and over, right? Recruitment is a big issue amongst a lot of civil
Anyone.
service type of positions. And I'll just rely on the mayor and administration, to make the right decision here. We just set the budget. You do what you need to do to hire cops, so.
And let me just throw another example out there. So, I don't know if you guys saw in the newspaper, Madison Township just eliminated their civil service process. And the reason they did that, first of all, Madison Township pays probably $25,000 a year less than we do. And we've hired people from there before. So they got rid of the civil service process because Matt Byers, the chief out there, gave a test and he had like 6 guys that took the test. A couple of them failed it, a couple of them didn't make the grade, and hired a guy. Then he has somebody else say, hey, I just went through the academy. He interviews him, he's a fantastic employee, but he can't hire him because he's not on that test. The test lasts a year. That's the other problem we have. There's the good points and bad points about civil service. I'm all for the system when you have plenty of people. If we don't hire anybody, that list is valid until October of '23. I can't hire nobody else until this expires.
Chief, a couple things. I believe that the two council people are right, where it doesn't hurt just to talk to others in terms of a letter. No guarantee that you're gonna hire anybody, but just to even talk. If there is a diamond in the rough, if you will, what would that hurt? Secondly, I think you've hit something on the head, and I was gonna bring it up. It sounds like the problem with us is we have an antiquated civil service process, and if it has to be updated, is that a council, something that council has to do? Is it something that the administration has to do? How do we go about getting that changed to benefit the city?
I believe that the Civil Service Commission is an independent functioning body. They have their own lawyer that advises on stuff. And I'll tell you what, Jim Kane does an absolutely fantastic job. He is fantastic where he's very strict about everything, about the rules, about he maintains everything. Everything's got to be above board and fair. The civil service system works very, very well when you have plenty of candidates. We don't have plenty of candidates now. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to mess with that. If you want to talk to him or see if they're amenable to having a lateral transfer section of a separate, having two lists run side by side, you talk to him about that. But I certainly wouldn't get rid of the system because, like I said, I think we're in a lull right now. I think that as time goes on, you're going to get more and more people interested in law enforcement again.
Chief, but what I'm getting at though is if it's an issue where we're stuck with this list, that's the problem. It should be, okay, let's do a new list or something to that effect, where maybe these lists need short expiration times to start running through things if, considering this crunch that we're in. If there's nothing but poor candidates left, then it's time to scrap that list and get a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The promotional process, it used to mirror entry level. The list was good for a year and could be renewed at the recommendation of the mayor. So it'd be 2 years, just like entry level. About 20 years ago, they changed the rules during the whole former fire chief lawsuit fiasco with Chief Cowley. After that, they changed the rules, and they made it 6 months for promotions. The list was good for 6 months and could be renewed for another 6 months, based on the recommendation of the mayor. So yeah, they changed the rules, and they can change the rules. I know that they've been to like seminars and I don't know, like legal conferences, or other civil service commissions and professionals that do this, lawyers that do it full time, have made suggestions on what options are out there. So that's something, and I know Jim King's been to those, that's something that you can certainly speak to him about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying scrap the system, but if it's a situation where, let's even say that we only had 5 candidates and we hired them all off the list, then what do we do? There's nobody left on the list.
Correct.
So if we need to just have that conversation with the Civil Service Commission, considering it's in kind of extraordinary time with candidates, I think it's worth having that conversation.
My folks down there that do the interviewing process, the detectives and Bush and McCaffrey, they're all aware of this problem, and we're all very, very frustrated by it. Everybody wants to hire the best possible candidate we can get. My view has always been, I was never concerned about whether somebody had, I know you guys are, I get that, but I was never concerned about whether or not somebody had the police academy. I'm concerned about their character. Our people go into people's houses for burglary calls, for shots fired. We stop people all the time. We're in a constant adversarial environment every single day. And you got to have the right people to do that. So I look for somebody who's got the best character that I can find, and that's the guy that I want to hire. And we've been very fortunate doing that.
Councilman.
To just the point you just make, when you just said it never bothered you about the academy. See, that's where, so sitting on this side of the table, part of our oath is to worry about public monies. Mm-hmm. So it's their money that we're looking out after. And so when you say $38,000 is a drop in the bucket, well, to them, $38,000 might not be a drop in the bucket. And if the guy doesn't make it, they're out $38,000 and we start over. And the second, you had this exact same problem the last time we hired people. The list got small and we were having a hard time then. The hire the last hiring when you hired off, Megan came off that list, I know. So we had that trouble then. We should have been talking about what we're talking about now. We should have been talking about that then. We shouldn't have waited till we cycled through another cycle of the same stuff where the list was short and we're running out of candidates. We had the opportunity to fix this a year ago, and we did it.
I agree with what you're saying, but again, from my standpoint, even if you do lateral transfers.
Wait, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I know this is not way too long, but we had a year to fix this and we did it. But now we're gonna sit here and we're doing the same thing we could have done a year ago to talk about this.
Well, now we're gonna fix it, okay? Let's move on. We're gonna.
I agree with you.
And then I will contact, Jim Kane, have a conversation about, desperate times call for desperate
Yeah.
measures. and
Absolutely.
Just see if there's stipulations
Because
on when there's
it-
more candidates.
Yeah, if the Civil Service Commission isn't aware, that's a whole nother problem too. And we just need those lines of communication
The
open.
Civil Service Commission is well aware of this problem. Now, Jim Kane's been around for a long time, back when we used to have 120 candidates take the test. Back then, the hiring process, it was a good problem to have, when I'd have 5 or 6 good candidates to choose from, we're hiring 2 people. Now I had to, figure out which one's the best one out of the good ones. That's just not what's going on now.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any more questions for the police chief? If not, we'll move on. Fire Chief Powers?
Thank you, Councilman Jaworski. We too are within the hiring process right now. We just conducted some interviews. We're moving people on for one full-time position. This year, our numbers were down significantly. 24 took the test, but we will have no problem in hiring full-time people because we have some really good qualified candidates, both internal and external. However, our problems with part-time, and as you're well aware, my part-time staffing is 1/3 of our daily complement every day. So we have 2 guys that are part-time. We just lost 3 guys to other full-time departments in recent months. So we're down to 11. We've been recruiting. As a matter of fact, we've been recruiting very well because people do want to come here and work. It's a good farm team, if you would. They go on to get hired somewhere else because we have a good reputation. And the reason we have a good reputation is because we hire qualified candidates. And so when they're up for a full-time job, they get that full-time job. But we're to the point now where the candidate pool is just for part-time. And we hire them right off the street, so there's no testing, nothing. We go to the vocational schools, we go to the colleges, and we recruit. We go after hours in the evenings to recruit. We just don't have it. So this year, staffing is going to be a problem in that we probably, with those 2 positions we run every day, we're probably going to have a hard time filling both those positions. So we're going to have to find a solution. Obviously, we don't have that problem. There's been other communities that have had that problem for years. They've gone to maybe lesser qualified candidates. But when you get a candidate and you find out that 2 weeks ago they stole or shoplifted out of CVS, in my book, that's a red flag and we don't want them. Or they did cocaine, 3 months ago. I'm sorry, they don't come into our fire station. So I just want to make you aware of that. It's an issue. The solution, we really don't have any solutions. We've really gone out of the box to recruit. Like I said, we've held it off. Other communities just run short. I don't think this city wants to run short.
So, this is all, you're talking about part-time?
Yes.
And difficulty hiring part-time guys at this point. So, you're talking about, we're the farm team, we hire the part-time guys, we train them, and then they get a full-time job.
Right.
So this is something that I've been talking to you about since I came on the council. It doesn't seem like it makes any sense whatsoever for us to have as many part-time guys. I mean, maybe we consider, making some of those part-time people one full-time guy, or, something that will give us a little more stability, or maybe promoting those part-time guys to a full-time position within our department. I mean, I think maybe it's time for you to reconfigure, how we are staffing altogether. And maybe we have more full-time than part-time, and
I agree.
we figure out a way to make that work.
It's a cost thing, and I think we could probably
I
bring
know
it
this,
up.
but it seems to me like now we're getting to the point where,
Right, I agree with you.
I mean, we really need to look at those numbers. I mean, we've looked at this before, but maybe we really look at it now, because it sounds to me like you're gonna end up either short, or hiring people who have just shoplifted, or, not having the kind of pool that you need to have, because you're not gonna be able to fill these part-time positions, so.
Right, and the option is either to work overtime or hire more
Right,
full-time
so
people.
maybe we figure out those numbers.
Okay, we can do that.
I mean, seriously.
I'm
Okay.
definitely
I
on
know
board.
we've talked about this before, but it seems like it's the same problem, but now it's 10 times worse because now it's really hard to hire part-time guys.
Yes, it is, significantly, from 3 years ago when we discussed it,
Right.
now it's,
So maybe we preempt that and just
Okay.
kind of
we can do that.
Okay, that would be awesome. I'd love to, work with you on that.
Okay. That's all I have, Councilman Jaworski.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for the police chief, or excuse me, for the fire chief? Okay, up next is the finance director.
Thank you, Councilman. I will make it short. I don't have anything really to add to my monthly report. I just want to highlight that at the end of November, our general fund carryover was $7.6 million, so, yeah. That's all I have.
Anyone else have any questions or comment for the finance director? Debbie, based on this projection, then, do you expect us to finish out around 7.6, 7.5 by the end of the year?
I would say between 6.8 and 7.2.
So we have a lot of encumbrances coming up then in the
Yes.
month of December.
Yes.
All right, since there's no other questions for the finance director, move on to the city engineer.
Thank you, Council Pro Tem. One thing to add to my written report, been in discussion the last day now with Commissioner Hammercheck. We did send him a letter a couple of weeks ago regarding the Lincoln Road, Lincoln Road, Rockefeller Road, Ridge Road intersection improvements. As you know, we want to move forward and get this project done before school starts with the new campus. However, currently the funding isn't going to be available until 2026. So we sent the commission, and we've been requesting meetings with NOACA and whatnot to no avail. So we went to the top, went to Mr. Hammercheck, Commissioner, sent word last night and today that they're willing to shift some money around and be able to get us funded for this year. The key thing, though, we would have to have that project complete by June 30th, which, if the city of Wickliffe was doing this project, I would have no issue with saying, you got it, we'll have it done. Because it's an ODOT-led project, we need to make sure that that's stipulated with ODOT and okay with them. But the one thing that could be a snare for us is that the two control cabinets that we're replacing, putting new control cabinets at Lincoln Road and Rockefeller, there's a 10 to 20 week lead time on those cabinets. So if we had to have the project done by June 30th, we'd have to order these cabinets by like February 15th or something like that. And just talking with Ron, I said, well, that's, and we're of the same mind. That's no problem. We'll just buy them. The city can just buy them, and we'll have them on the shelf, and then we'll, just have that part of the contract and then we can get reimbursed through the city's share of the project. I mean, the project cost, we're talking $400,000, and the city shares $124,000, and we're talking about a $30,000 cost, $30,000 to $35,000 for these cabinets. So that could be an option as long as ODOT is okay with it. More to come. I'll probably bring this up early in January. Hopefully I'll have some answers from them. But just that you're aware, we want to make sure our ducks in a row for this so that we can get that early money so that we can get it done. And possibly we'll have to go out to bid or get quotes or something for those control cabinets.
Anyone have any questions for the city engineer? Pete, I know I've asked the administration this, if we were going to hold something for the residents to give them a little bit of voice on this, or is there any plans of this happening before we would even go out to bid, just to, I still think, considering it's such a drastic change, that we have to do something to make those residents aware of the potential that's coming.
Sure. Let's set up a meeting. community meeting or something. I have no problem with it.
There's so many ways to get the word out without going door to door, so we either put the meeting out, but is everybody gonna get notified of that? We put it in the connection that probably won't be out in time. Like social media, or an all call,
I mean, that, mail, I mean, whatever we, you know.
put out,
Councilman Dorsey, is that project is still in committee. Has the committee ever finalized what they decided they really were going to do at that intersection? Before we meet with the public to decide, do we know exactly what we're doing there? Exactly? Okay, so, I mean, how do we meet the public if we don't know what we're doing yet?
I think, Councilman, that when it was left, it was somewhat agreed to the menu choice that we had chosen. But I think we kept it in committee at that point in time just because we hadn't heard from, no, I think it was ODOT, just because of how long the process was expected to take.
That could be. I know that we went through the
It's been
options
so long.
of relocating the intersection, buying the property and widening and doing all that, or sticking with what we
I
have.
was just making a suggestion that maybe we should have a committee meeting on that, decide what we think is the best option before we take it to the residents and then ask the residents if we don't know what. How do we ask them what they want when we don't even know what's the best option then? That's just my suggestion.
Yeah, let me look it up here, Councilman. I think it's still in committee. I'm trying to find that email.
It's in the improvement committee.
If it's still
Councilman
in,
Jaworski.
yeah, so if it's still in there, then I'll be calling an improvement committee meeting then, as soon as we can in January. I don't think we'll have enough, since we're nearing this time in December, enough time to have a meeting.
Oh, that's
but
fine.
we'll likely have the first Monday available to have that meeting.
Great.
So, okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the city engineer? All right, up next then is the service director.
Thank you, Council President. Just to reiterate on that a little bit, I do believe it is still in committee. This has been really put on the fast track just recently because of, you know, all this stuff coming down. We would like to get this project done before the thing. We're also aware that even the cost of the cabinets is not even in, the budget probably won't even be approved by the time that we have to order these cabinets, if that is the case. So we're just kind of just snowballing some things to try to, you know, to see if we can expedite how this happens. Because we know, I mean, you know, there's a good chance the budget won't be approved till March or, you know, the end of March or whatever, and we'll definitely have to have these on order before then. So we're just discussing all the different options and things like that, and I just wanted to let you know that, you know, this is all just stuff in it, it actually just came to light yesterday, pretty much. So we're just kind of, you know, trying to run with what we have, what our options. The only other thing I have to add to my monthly report is I just did want to mention that we did extend leaf season another week. We did wrap up leaf season as of last Friday, but we were supposed to end the week earlier, but there was still a decent amount of leaves out there. We had a lot of leaves in the gutters and the catch basins blocked and things like that. So we had our crews go around. We picked up every pile of leaves and we did all the gutter lines and the curbs, and just so that if we get snow and stuff like that, that the leaves won't block the catch basins. That's about all I have.
Sherry?
First, I want to say fantastic job on decorating for the holiday. Everything looks great. And then I'd like to know, in regards to where the Provo House was and the cemetery is, there is like absolutely no access.
There is not. So part of the project that I was even a little bit unaware of was the fact that when the Lake County Land Bank agrees to restore a property, it has to be restored to its original condition. Means that all parking lots, everything has to come out. So that's why they did that. And actually, the west driveway was horrible anyway, but they did end up taking that east driveway out that I was planning on keeping. But that was, as they saw him taking that, I'm like, well, wait a minute. He's like, oh no, he said the land bank says that the entire property has to be brought back to original condition, which is basically dirt. And they're going to topsoil and seed it in the spring.
What happens if there's a funeral?
Well, we can still have a funeral. We have access between to the cemetery right next to automation, or you know.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, yeah. Right next to there. There's still access to the property. There's not a lot of parking or anything like that, but and then Councilman Hartstein and I and Pete have been working on a plan to what we're gonna do in the future here to get some parking back there, a driveway access and a new sign, and what we're gonna do out front with that property, so. That's kind of been in the works a little bit.
And you got a clean slate. You guys got a clean slate.
Yes, we do.
For that, so that'll be nice.
So anything you want.
So, yeah, I think, after we've been discussing it more and everything like that, instead of having the parking up top and having handicap ramp and everything, we're kind of looking into maybe, and this is just, again, all in the planning stages, but actually putting a driveway back to the back and having a parking lot down lower, so it wouldn't have to have handicap access and stuff like that, so they could actually park, walk over to the columbarium and stuff like that. And we're just kind of looking at the best ways to, how to, there's a creek down there we have to cross. So, we're looking into all that right now.
There were those students from Cleveland State that had made suggestions too. I don't know if you
They
still
are,
have
and we have that plan as well. Some of that's gonna definitely be implemented, but I do believe that the driveway's gonna change now and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
But yeah, we do have all that. It's just gonna be something very simple up top, and again, we'll bring it to you for approval before we do anything, absolutely, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for the service director? All right, up next is the building commissioner.
Thank you, Council President. I just had one thing to add in my report. I had 2 applications for the CBG grant, and I'm processing them as we speak. And that's all I had.
Any questions for the,
All right, how is the snowplow permits enforced? Contractors are required to get a snowplowing permit to plow snow in the city. How is that enforced?
We don't enforce them. I mean, my department does not enforce them. We don't check anybody, stop a truck or anything like that. So we have no, on our end, we have no enforcement on that.
Okay.
So we just trust that snow plowers get permits when,
They probably don't.
okay. Something to look into though, no good.
Well, a benefit for them would be, would they
Insurance.
go on a list then? Would they be on
They're,
so
when
that
they
if
get
a
the
resident would call, or if a resident would say, hey, I'm looking, then they could be referred to the website and say, these are people that we know are bonded and insured, and they're not bonded or insured.
well, they do go on the website though,
Okay.
as snow plower.
anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Out of curiosity, what is the permit cost?
$5.
$5 for each
Truck.
snowplow?
Yes.
I thought it went up to 10, right?
I don't think so. You already charge you 10?
I'm pretty sure you charged me 10.
Sorry, Randy.
That was
just for you.
That was intentional.
Very good extra
$5 and 10 for Randy.
I'll make Ray chase down snowplow trucks now to make sure they
I will say that we've had more calls on snowplowers, looking for people looking for snowplowers than ever in the past. Because there's quite a few less snowplowers out there now. A lot of guys are just giving it up. We had one of our policemen used to have a business, and he went down to Florida for the winter and gave it up, and he was one of the bigger snowplowers in the area. So it's slim pickings for snowplowers, I can guarantee you that.
All right, if there's no other questions for the building commissioner, we'll move on to the recreation director.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Jaworski. Just one quick comment to my written report. We're in the midst of our Helping Hand program. We work with the schools to identify needy families, and we'll have help for about 47 families this season and 100 kids. And once again, thanks to Lubrizol and True Line for all the heavy lifting for filling those needs. So that's it.
Anyone have any questions for the recreation
It's
director?
really a comment that I'd like to thank Santa Claus sitting in the back row there. He did a very nice job the other night at the children's Christmas party. There's no children in here, so. But Jim did a great job for the rec department at the Christmas party. Thank you for taking your time to do that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm gonna compliment Tim on the other end of that. In the daytime, the senior center Christmas party was at the Trevi's. Our senior center director got COVID the night before, and that's one of the big events. She was unable, so Tim had to come together and get it done. And that went off without a hitch. It was such a nice event, just to see everybody happy. And there was a lot of people in attendance.
And there's 104, I think there was.
Right, and I feel like
And the volunteers really helped out, so.
everybody stepped up.
I was just present, so the volunteers really helped out, yes, but thank you.
Nice, and on that as well, again, the Winterfest, January 14th, more entries coming quick, a lot of people reaching out. I think it's gonna be biggest this year to enter your chili in Wickliffe. Got a lot of good chili cookers out there, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the Recreation Director? All right, seeing none, we'll move on then to audience participation. This portion of the meeting is intended for the audience to address Wickliffe City Council and the mayor, not the directors. Anyone wishing to address council must give their name and address for the clerk's record and will be given a maximum of 5 minutes for comments. And the clerk does have a microphone for anyone who wishes to speak. Is there anyone who would like to address Wickliffe City Council?
My name's Jim Liss, 29717 Arthur Avenue. My question is, going west on Lakeland Boulevard, as you approach the freeway, you want to get on Route 2, there's one sign that has two icons on it, and from reading the sign, you get that the right-hand lane is a right turn only, and the left-hand lane, you go straight ahead. Well, not many people are paying any attention to that. It's kind of rough getting off the freeway. You really got to watch it. So, will there ever be a line painted on the pavement that says the same thing, the right turn arrow? Will we ever get that back again?
Yes. It's in the spring.
Okay.
Is this some temporary striping they put down?
Yeah, it's just temporary striping because of the temperature. We couldn't get the permanent epoxy paint down. So in the spring, when this warms up, we get the right stuff.
All right, good. Thank you.
I'll concur on that. People are going straight in both lanes now, left and right.
Let's put a temporary arrow in.
Yeah.
We'll spray in an arrow somehow.
Yeah.
You're talking Lakeland Boulevard heading westbound, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And
Right by
because
the
people
freeway.
come off the freeway and take the right and right, you just whip around.
Yeah.
And you get the arrow to go right, but, which is fine, but when it turns green, people are going straight because there's nothing to tell them that
Might
that's
be
right
something
hand turn.
we can do
only.
it in-house and we'll put something down.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to address Wickliffe City Council? Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else, we will close audience participation then, and we will move on to committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports? All right, anybody have any commission reports? There is no old business, and there is no new business, so that means that we'll move on to ordinances. Ordinance, Mr. Wadrick?
Okay, ordinance number 2022-62, an ordinance providing for the certification differential for the property maintenance inspector of the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, third reading.
Adoption.
Second.
Adoption made by Councilman Thielman, I believe second by Councilman Gehartstein, to adopt Wickliffe City Council Ordinance 22-62 as presented. Discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto? Yes. Thielman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2022-64, an ordinance authorizing the subdivision of municipal property and declaring an emergency, second reading. Ordinance number 2022-65, an ordinance amending certain sections of the credit card policy for the city of Wickliffe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Suspension made by Councilman Thielman, seconded by Councilman Ballard, that the rules of Wickliffe City Council be suspended and ordinance number 2022-65 be placed on third and final reading. Discussion?
I understand raising a credit limit on a credit card, but why would we need to go from 25,000 to 150,000 on a credit card?
That's an excellent question. The purpose of this commercial card would be to earn rebates. And there are certain payments that we can make, like our fuel, but the workers' comp premium that will get us, I believe, the first level of rebate that we have to spend over a year, $250,000. It's over $100,000 usually for our workers' comp premium, and they will accept a commercial card without any convenience fees. So this is to, the $150,000 limit is to enable us to pay as much payables as we can to earn, I mean, so we're paying for things, we're doing something we're doing anyway to get a rebate back for it.
Okay, well, then why would, I understand for what you're talking about for fuel and the other stuff, why is there a need to add more credit cards to that then? You guys are, if I read that right, you're adding 2 positions on credit cards?
Yes.
Is that council's response, hold on, before, maybe you don't have to answer that. Is that the mayor's decision on who gets the credit cards anyhow?
Well, I mean, I think it's the administrations who put together the ideas that they wanted the credit card policy to be. And obviously, they're coming to council and ask them to.
Well, I thought I read that the mayor decides on who receives the cards anyhow. And if that's true, then that's a moot point to ask. So.
It's outlined in the policy, which was approved by council in 2019.
2 years when the state.
Oh, I thought you were adding 2 positions on this ordinance here.
Yes, those positions were added to try to accommodate the police and fire department, because previously they had, the police department has 3 credit cards, the fire department has 2. This commercial card, they're only going to, we can only have 1 per name. Okay, so that way they both get 2 credit cards that are at their disposal.
Debbie, I guess, based on what you're saying, then we're gonna be using this credit card to make purchases in excess of $100,000 then?
It's possible. And the one that is the most possible is the workers' comp premium, and the one at the end of this month, which I'm hoping we get our new cards prior to, would be, it's just shy of $100,000. But in order to be able to utilize it to maximize the rebate, we would put as much payables on it as possible. And so therefore, not only are we gonna get a rebate, we'll save money on paper stock and ink and postage. I mean, nobody's gonna go out and buy, you know, I still have to approve purchase orders. It's not gonna be anything extraneous. I believe that the illuminating company will accept credit cards with payments without fees. And if we just paid the streetlight account only, and we have a whole list of illuminating accounts, but the street lighting is approximately $24,000 a month. So there's our rebate, but we have to have enough room on it to be able to transact like we use the normal credit card now plus the payables, so.
So do you have an example of what a rebate could possibly be?
There are different, depending on how much you spend, I believe it would be only, if we only hit the $250,000, I believe it would be $10,000 or $15,000 that we would, but again.
As a rebate?
As a rebate, we're gonna get money for doing something we are normally doing and not getting paid for now. It was my attempt at trying to generate a revenue stream, so. That sounds great.
Will there be any user fees or any kind of fees that we need to be cognizant of within this particular credit card?
No, no fees at all.
Anyone else have any comments or questions regarding this?
I do. I think it's great. That's a great place to look for extra revenue. Thank you for doing that, because that'll be a great option. Thank you.
Clerk, if you would like to call the roll on the suspension.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto?
Yes.
Seelman?
Yes.
Adoption.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Kosky and seconded by, I believe it was Councilman Thielman. I heard a couple voices over there. That ordinance number 2022-65 be adopted as presented. Discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto?
Yes.
Seelman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2022-65, an ordinance amending, ordinance number 2022-66, an ordinance providing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Wickliffe, Ohio for the period beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gerhardstein, seconded by Councilwoman Saloto, that the rules of Wickliffe City Council be suspended and ordinance number 2022-66 be placed on third and final reading. Discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto?
Yes.
Seelman?
Yes.
Adoption.
Second.
Adoption made by Councilman Gerhardstein and seconded by Councilwoman Saloto, that ordinance number 2022-66 be adopted as presented. Discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto?
Yes.
Seelman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2022-67, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance of the City of Wickliffe, Ohio, to transfer a sum of money from the general fund to the sewer fund and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Suspension made, or motion to suspend made by Councilwoman Saloto, seconded by Councilman Gerhardstein, that the rules of Wickliffe City Council be suspended and ordinance number 2022-67 be placed on third and final reading. Discussion? Sandy, call the roll.
Ballot?
Yes.
Gerhardstein?
Yes.
Jaworski?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Saloto?
Yes.
Seelman?
Yes.
Adoption.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gerhardstein, seconded by Councilwoman Saloto, that ordinance number 2022-67 be adopted as presented. Discussion? Debbie, I guess I do have one question for you based on the memo that you sent. Doing this is going to alleviate those issues that we have then when the, I guess, reimbursement takes longer than 1 year for those advances?
Well, the advances are a separate matter. We will have to discuss those advances in the future. Right now, Ron was able to get me early the amount of the bill for Euclid sewer and the appropriations were insufficient for the year. So that's why the appropriations had to be increased, and therefore the fund would have run negative, so we can't have that. So the $190,000 subsidy transfer will not have to be paid back. We will have to, hopefully, beginning of next year, early in next year, discuss the $250,000 advances. I'm hoping that once we get repairing as many sewers as we can, that this will solve itself. But we thought that raising the rates would enable us to pay these back, but that has not come to fruition yet because of the failing sewer systems.
So Euclid hasn't raised their rates since. It's just our sewer system is essentially flushing money away, if you will.
Yes. Euclid, I believe, is raising their rates.
3 cents or something?
Yeah, next year again. I thought it was 1, but next year and then.
That was 3 cents. Well, it was 3 cents over 2 years, I believe.
if this is something then that you feel that needs to be discussed further and discussed by council, please let Council President Levon know, and he'll put it in the appropriate committee that he desires, and then we can meet on this and move forward on those advancement issues.
Right. I mean, at this point, the county considers our sewer fund in the negative regardless of what our ending balance says, because they have to then subtract the $250,000 that needs to be repaid to the general fund. But if those were reclassified as subsidy transfers instead of advances, they would not have to be repaid, and therefore our sewer fund, in the eyes of the county, would not be negative. So that's my main concern.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? No? Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ballard.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski.
Yes.
Saloto.
Yes.
Seelman.
Yes.
There are no resolutions. I see no other legislation. Anyone else have anything for miscellaneous? Seeing none, then we'll ask for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Hartstein, seconded by Councilman Ballard, that Wickliffe City Council adjourn at 8:16. Clerk, call the roll.
Ballard.
Yes.
Gerhardstein.
Yes.
Jaworski.
Yes.
Kowski. Saloto.
Yes.
Seelman.
Yes.
Probably costs about